Hey everyone, it's Brad and Josh here, and we welcome you to We'll Bring the Popcorn, the ultimate film and TV podcast.
Today we're going to be reviewing the second season of Wednesday and the first season of The Paper.
So we're kicking things off this week talking about Paramount picking up the rights to the Call of Duty video game franchise. Now, they're getting full rights to do a live-action film to it, but they also get the ability to create a Call of Duty universe. So that's TV shows, more films, and everything else, which this seems like it probably should have already happened because it's a war game series, and it's also known for having very cinematic, great campaigns. Like, there's only been a few campaigns in the Call of Duty's history that's been kind of okay. They've had some really good cinematic campaigns if they stick to the story. So we'll see if it's going to be using soap and using everybody who's been there. I mean, you can go modern warfare, you have advanced warfare, you have the world wars that they can go to. So there's a lot that they can play with in this space. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what we get out of this. As long as it's kind of dark and gritty and they take kind of the war and action seriously, I think it should be a no-brainer that they have a good film and a good new universe to go off of. But we'll see how it ends up turning out.
Yeah, I just hear the words Paramount, and I think of one word and one word only, and that's Halo. Mm-hmm. So that gives me a little bit of trepidation about them trying to take over Call of Duty as well, because as many know, the series was not well received at all. It got 2 seasons on Paramount before it pretty much got the old heave-ho on out of there, but yeah, I mean, Call of Duty, like you said, there's so many games and so much lore to build off of that you could really do some good things with. And I want to talk a little bit about the fact that apparently Steven Spielberg tried to get his hands on Call of Duty and make a movie out of it. And Activision got so freaked out about it that they sold the rights to Paramount. Steven Spielberg is one of the preeminent filmmakers of all time, known for doing war movies, by the way, really freaking well. Like, you know, Saving Private Ryan and all of these other films that he's done, but you're freaking out over Steven Spielberg because I guess he wanted a little too much control for your liking. It's Steven Spielberg. What are we doing?
How dare you give Steven Spielberg control over something that he's doing?
Like, it's crazy. That's like asking Picasso not to use a paintbrush or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And that's what causes me to have a little bit of trepidation with this. Like you said, there's always opportunities to do something really spectacular with it, but if they're already freaking out over one of the greatest filmmakers of all time trying to be a part of the project, that doesn't give me a lot of confidence in what they could be building with that now that they've got their hands on it.
The Office meme popped in my head with this of where Angela sneaks up on Dwight and he freaks out about it. Well, you know, Paramount is Dwight and Steven Spielberg is Angela there. And they just go, oh, freaked out. Steven Spielberg wants to do our movie, but he wants control. Like, Steven Spielberg. Yeah, I mean, like, I get it's a new franchise. You want to be able to have control over, but you have one of the greatest living directors who is a fan of the game series and approached you about taking on the franchise. And you're like, Paramount, buy it, please. Like, we don't want him to have anything to do with it, please. Like, that's just wild that you turned down Steven Spielberg like that.
Yeah, what are we doing, Activision? That's just absolutely crazy. We'll see what Paramount does with it, but I'm not overly confident, like I said, given their history with Halo and already trying to take a successful video game franchise and make something with it. I don't know. We'll see who winds up, you know, getting the reins of this project and kicking it off for them, but the fact that you were so paranoid about Steven Spielberg just kind of gives me a tremendous amount of pause when it comes to just the quality of something you're going to make. I'm going to reserve until they, you know, announce who's going to helm this first project, but man, that's a big miss.
Yeah, because you've done good with like Sonic the Hedgehog, although you had fans that had to come back after you because of the design, because it didn't go over right. So they've done a few good, but when you're talking about a big military-esque franchise, when they failed so badly with Halo, it does, you know, that failed with Halo, and how they acted towards Steven Spielberg was like, all right, so what are they trying? Are they just going to milk it for all it's worth, not caring what the quality is of it, and just go like, because I mean, like I said, they have such deep, entertaining cinematic campaigns to these games. Like, that's one of the main reasons why I played. I played the multiplayer, but I didn't get into it too deeply most of the time because of how sweaty and everything else it gets and how just over the top people get with Call of Duty multiplayer. I love the campaigns because
awesome.
they had such a great gritty story. You had surprises, you had surprise deaths, you had a lot of stuff that happened. It's already got the bones to be something good, but yeah, we got to see if Paramount, after this freak out over Steven Spielberg, is going to actually let it be good, or they're just going to crank out as many as they can until it stops making money.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned sweaty online multiplayer. That's the Call of Duty is the game that got me to stop playing a bunch of those types of FPS, type games, just because of how toxic the online community was, which that bodes well for your fandom when it comes to making a movie too. So we'll see how that plays out. I do want to move us into talking about another story that we've touched on quite a bit on the podcast here. And there's been some back and forth on whether or not this Tomb Raider series is going to be made, kind of sticking in the video game realm here, but it does appear that it has been greenlit and it is moving forward into production, and Sophie Turner has been cast to play Lara Croft in this new series from Amazon. It's going to be beginning in production around mid-January of next year, so we've got that officially in the works now. I know the internet certainly has their opinions about Sophie Turner playing Lara Croft, but I'll reserve some judgment of that until I see what they actually come up with. But it's going to be interesting because now that it's finally officially got the green light and it's moving forward, what we're going to get from it.
Yeah, so she's a good actress, but she doesn't physically fit what you would picture as Lara Croft and stuff. But I'm absolutely going to give her a chance. You still have Phoebe Waller-Bridge behind it, so she's serving as a showrunner. She's also produced and writing it as well. We had Chad Hodge has joined in on the production. He's going to co-show run it with Phoebe Waller-Bridge. But what's interesting, they have Jonathan Van Teleken, who's going to direct this series, and he's notably known for directing the first 2 episodes of Shogun. Brilliant. He also is directing several, or we don't know exactly yet how many episodes he did direct of the new Blade Runner series that's coming out. So we can't really go off the quality of that, but I mean, that's 2 big projects that he's been a part of that. Of course, you can go back and look in our archives of what we thought about Shogun. That was such a brilliant show, and you get one of those directors taking on Tomb Raider. So far, I've liked what I'm hearing, but it was odd because everything that we had heard for a little while was that this was shelved. It was no longer happening, that it was dead in the water. They couldn't come to agreement on, the stories and scripts and everything else. And it's like, all right, we're filming in January. Okay, it's September, and this is the first we've heard about it in months. So there's still a little apprehension behind it, but I'm willing to give it a chance. The animated Tomb Raider series with Hayley Atwell that was just on Netflix was pretty solid, but we haven't had a live action Tomb Raider since the last time they tried to reboot it based off of the newer games. I assume we're going off of the newer games still here, but we really don't know what direction they're taking when it comes to the story yet on this series.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, the jury's still out. I mean, we're just now getting confirmation that this is going into production. But if you get somebody who's directed a beautifully aesthetic show like Shogun, I'm expecting that same quality out of this Tomb Raider show, because if you've seen Shogun, you know just how stunning the visual set pieces are on there, and the way it was shot was just so freaking good. Like, I'm excited that he's attached to this Tomb Raider project, because at least bare minimum, even if the story quality is not the best, visually it's going to be just spectacular and well done and well shot, and it's really going to set the tempo for what at least will visually be a very satisfying show to watch. So I'm at least excited to get that aspect and get him on board with it, because that's a good get as far as a director for a show goes that knows how to shoot pieces like that. I'm interested to see the theme of this one, what kind of adventure Laura's going to go on, but yeah, I'm at least pleased that he's on board, and that bodes well for the show, at least out the gate.
And we don't know when we're going to see it quite yet, if it films next year, potentially 2027, but so. 2027 is already going to be a stacked year for entertainment. James Gunn just announced that the Superman sequel, which he's come out and said it's not going to be like your typical direct sequel. It's going to be out in July of 2027. It's called Man of Tomorrow. He announced it with some art of Superman with Lex, but Lex is wearing his war suit, which we have yet to see in live action.
Sure.
So that's going to be really interesting to see what kind of story we're getting. Is it going to be a team up? Is it going to be a different type of like battle between those two? Do we throw in Brainiac or some other villains like that? But, announcing it with the war suit and having it 2027 is going to be huge, because we're also, if it gets filmed finally, we're going to have the Batman Part 2 in 2027 as well. So the one that's not part of the DCU will also be with the biggest DCU film so far.
Yeah, and that it's smart to capitalize on the success of Superman, like how well it's actually done in the theaters. Say what you will about the box office numbers. It was absolutely 100% a success for DC. Storyline, the quality-wise of the story was also fantastic as well. Go back in our archives and see what we had to say about that film, but definitely capitalizing on that success with a follow-up, Man of Tomorrow. It looks, at least from the concept art that we got to see, pretty cool to see that war suit that Lex is pretty infamous for wearing in the comics to kind of help combat Superman in a lot of ways. Like that's something that's going to be exciting to see on the screen, because at least we feel like we're getting a more comic accurate version of Superman from James Gunn, which is just a big thumbs up for me as somebody who loves those comics and loves those stories. But it'll be interesting to see what that story is talking about. But man, you weren't kidding. We have so many just huge. If you're sick of sequels, you're going to hate 2027. But if you're a fan of all these franchises, there are so many that are coming out with follow-up movies in 2027. That is going to be the year of just big, over-the-top, epic sequels, as far as so many major franchises getting another movie that comes out. We're not going to be short on content in 2027, that's for sure, because you've got the likes of, the Superman follow-up, the Batman Part 2, but you've also got, like, the next Shrek movie is scheduled to come out by then. You've got the fourth Sonic the Hedgehog movie, and I'm just listing sequels at this point, because you've also got the follow-up to TMNT, the Mutants of Mayhem animated Ninja Turtles one. You've got the next Frozen film. You've got the next Ice Age film. You've got finally Beyond the frickin' Spider-Verse that we've been waiting for several years now. Yep. Like, that's just the tip of the iceberg as far as just sequels alone. And I know you want to talk about some of the original movies coming out too, but just so many like franchise-based films that are coming out in 2027. It's insane.
And didn't even mention the small film Avengers Secret Wars that's out.
Yeah, that's
in
not
that
even
year.
to touch on it. I'm wearing the frickin' Marvel shirt.
And what might be, to me, it might be the biggest movie, and I'm not even joking about this, of 2027, is Bluey the movie is out. And I believe it's August of 2027. Like, you have Secret Wars, you have 2 DC films, you have a whole lot of stuff. Bluey might be the biggest film of 2027. Yeah, I think people may underestimate just how huge among kids and parents that Bluey is. Like, Bluey is going to be a humongous movie when it comes out, and it's right smack dab in the middle of all of it. Like, there's 20, 30 sequels, original stuff. Like, we even talked about it a little bit. You do have, which I don't know who really asked for, but you have the Passion of the Christ sequel, which has been split into 2 films. Whatever you feel about it and feel about Mel Gibson and stuff, it was the highest grossing R-rated film for over 20 years until Deadpool dethroned it.
Yeah.
And it made over $600 million. It was a highly successful, over 30 awards and stuff to it. Whatever you feel about it, you're getting 2 of those in 2027 as well.
Yeah, which is just insane, because, I mean, you've got another Godzilla Kong movie. That's not even to mention another big franchise like Star Wars, who's supposed to have their Starfighter movie.
Lord of the Rings has a
Lord of the Rings follow-up. This is how insane 2027 is going to be. Like, I'm, as a film buff, like, as fans of film, we're stoked for that, like, because we have content for days.
I'm just going to call up Cinemark and just say, hey, we're moving in 2027.
Just buy one of the rooms and just let us see everything in it. We'll host parties and all kinds of crazy stuff there. It's not even to mention the live action follow up to How to Train Your Dragon is one of those movies as well. Like, this is insane. The amount of, and that's just franchise films that are going to be a part of this. Like, it's insane the amount of content that's coming in 2027. We're excited about 2026 because it's got some absolute bangers coming up too, but man, 2027, just looking like way down the line, crazy content. There may be genuinely weeks where we have to do 3 movies because we don't have any other choice. Like, it just may get that loaded with content, which it's a fun problem for us to have. But, like, man, so many movies. Like, it's going to be really interesting to see what stands out, what rises to the top. And you may be right. The craziest part about it is Bluey may be the biggest grossing film of all of it because it's insanely popular. Everybody's going to take their kids to see the Bluey movie. Like, I
may take my kids and then go see it without my kids. So, like, I love Bluey.
Yeah, I'll go see it by myself, obviously.
But I think that's going to be a juggernaut that they're going to kind of underestimate a little bit because it's a global phenomenon. Like those shows and those episodes have been some of the most watched online, and it's crazy. And we may even have another Marvel film out in 2027 as well, because we have Shang-Chi 2 potentially being done, which kind of going back to the announcement of Man of Tomorrow. So Simu Liu did have a little comment about, because people are like, man, how do you get a comic book film sequel announced so quickly? And he's like, because he's been waiting for so long to do Shang-Chi again. And so we could potentially have Shang-Chi 2 in that year, which I'm highly excited about. I love the first one, and I think I've been waiting for that character return. So there's so much stuff that we haven't had announced that could also be there. I mean, Alien Romulus is going to have a sequel that potentially films in 2026, so that could be out in 2027 as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to talk about that now too, because Fede Alvarez, who's actually going to be in our city this coming week as part of the Horror Hound weekend, he's announced that he's not actually going to be directing the Alien Romulus sequel, which sucks. I'm not gonna lie, that's kind of a bummer. But he is still going to be a part of the production team and is going to be helping produce the film. But he does love the story they have for it, but he kind of wants somebody else to take the reins and kind of really drive it home. It still hasn't been announced yet who specifically is going to be directing it, but you got to figure it's somebody that's closely associated with him. But I know he's mentioned he and Ridley Scott are still searching for that particular director, but we'll see what comes of that. It's a little bit of a bummer that he's not taking the reins, because we liked Alien Romulus, but we were really hoping what the follow-on to it was going to look like, and it seems like we're still up in the air on what that's going to look like.
Yeah, Alien Romulus was good, but it had a little bit of a problem where it tried too many throwbacks and too much kind of, oh, hey, you remember this line, you remember this, you remember that, and I wanted to see him finally kind of break free of that and go into something original in the Alien Romulus that's fully his, which it seemed like with the sequel it would be. And it's a little disappointing. I mean, he wrote the script. He's going to be producing it still. He did say he wants to kind of move on to an original project that's, not a sequel, that's not a franchise, but he didn't give any information on what that is. But it feels like, I don't know, maybe because of all the fanfare and everything because he's brought back a few franchises now and really helped get a lot of stuff going well for these franchises, that he's kind of finally fallen back and I want to do some more original stuff. We can't blame him on that, but I really wanted to see what he could do with the Alien Romulus sequel once he kind of hopefully moved past the throwbacks and just did his own thing, because he's a great director, a great storyteller, and I wanted to see some more original Alien stuff from him. Even though he wrote the script, we'll see who gets that direction to kind of keep his vision going.
Yeah, it's a bummer that he's not going to be directly involved with directing it, but you know how we feel about original content too, and we want to see more of that. And if he's working on something like that, sign me up. We'll be there day one to watch whatever he puts out next as far as original content goes. But it's something that's definitely needed more of. So, like you said, we just rattled off 30 potential sequels, it feels like, and franchises that are going to be up in 2027. Give us more original content. Go support it. If a director of that caliber wants to make something original, let's go. I'm excited to see what they could potentially have in the works.
And we'll see if anything else comes out of Horror Hound. He's doing a Q&A panel there and everything else. We'll see if we get any more information out of him on potentially a new director or exactly what this new project is from him.
Yeah, I'm excited for that for sure.
We are now partnered with Dubby Energy. Dubby is a clean energy drink to give you focus with no crash or jitters like other energy drinks.
Dubby contains vitamins, amino acids, and 150 milligrams of caffeine. It also features 0 calories, no sugar, no fillers, and no artificial dyes.
From Dragonade and S'mores to Push and Punch and Galaxy Grenade, Dubby has a wide range of flavors for you to choose from.
Use code WBTP to save 10% off your Dubby Energy orders, and look for a direct link in the audio and video descriptions.
So I want to head into our first review, which is Wednesday Season 2. So we've waited, 3 years since Season 1 to get this. And it picks up kind of the summer break heading into Year 2 at Nevermore Academy. Wednesday has figured out how to use her psychic ability, and she used it to track down a serial killer over the summer, which we are going to get into some spoilers about this because there's a lot that happened. There's a lot of stuff we have to talk about. We're going over the entire season, so if you don't want to be spoiled, As always, jump to our wrap-up review at the end that you can find in the timeline of the description to get our spoiler-free thoughts of this season. But I actually had quite a lot of fun with this season. It did feel a little off at times with some things, and it dragged a little bit at times. But overall, I thought it was a pretty fun season.
They kept it pretty short and crisp. I mean, it's 8 episodes total. Like we got a pretty solid story here. But yeah, I mean, this is kind of a follow-on to, all of the events that happened in the first season, obviously, but this is now Wednesday going back to Nevermore, and, there's a new principal who's played by the crazy over-the-top Steve Buscemi in this season, who was just a ton of fun. You could tell he had a lot of fun making this season, as well as Principal Dort here, and it's a fun ride that we go on for this. Like I know we're gonna like talk about some spoilery things, but I'm trying to keep it spoiler free for now. But Wednesday goes on quite a different journey this season, because getting into spoilers, because we just can't avoid it at this point. But not only does she gain her ability to use her psychic abilities, she loses her psychic abilities too. Like, the whole story is about her being overly dependent on those abilities, kind of abusing them, and through, situations that happen, she loses her ability to use it, and it's all about getting her control back here at the end. She's desperate to get it back while trying to thwart, the return of Tyler, who showed up at the end of the first half, returned as the Hyde and went into the Hyde form and knocked her out the window and kind of left it on a kind of that cliffhanger at the end of the first half, where we pick right back up with her in the hospital, but she's not there very long, because in typical TV fashion, we got to get the ball rolling on this. But it was definitely a fun journey you go on in this back half for sure, because it's a lot of moving pieces in this, a lot of different things going on, but at the same time, it's still about Wednesday and her, lack of trust in literally everyone around her, and her learning to kind of accept help from other people, really. And that's kind of the crux of the back half of this season, because she was not going to get out of this situation by herself, as she finds out in some pretty interesting ways.
Yeah, because she basically becomes a celebrity at the school as well, so everyone knows her, everyone's trying to be friends, which even gets her in the eyes of a stalker who can turn invisible and go around, which gets really interesting. And I know a lot of people talked about it. That the actress who played Agnes looks so much like Christina Ricci to me. Like, it was crazy kind of how she looked, but it was a lot of fun. It tried to deal with some relationship stuff that's mostly around Enid, who's in a love triangle. That kind of stuff wasn't as important. Hopefully in season 3 they just kind of let it be. I don't know if it really needs relationship stuff in Addams Family and Wednesday, because I mean, most of it is around Morticia and Gomez when you have like the love and relationship things, and they were very much not there in the first season. But season 2, Morticia gets a much bigger role, which gets Gomez around, and then Pugsley, who grew about 7 feet in between season 1 and season 2. He has come into Nevermore Academy. He has electric powers as well. So it did feel at times a little bit like we're getting a little darker Harry Potter. Everyone has different abilities that they can do, controlling insects and lightning and, the siren songs and telekinesis and everything else. And it's like it gets a little invisibility. You get a little bit dark Harry Potter feeling with it, that was okay. It was more when they got into the grittier detective kind of stuff with Wednesday of trying to figure out, because she's trying to figure out who her stalker is, but she kind of has more than one, because you realize there's someone else darker who can control ravens and do this in the background that are killing people, and she's trying to figure that out. But she's also got Agnes to deal with and her relationship with Enid, because Enid changed over the summer. She has a different feeling to her, and she has a different thought process to a lot of the stuff she does, as she's kind of coming into her own a little bit here, especially as she's dealing with her pack. And we get quite a few new teachers because of people who have died and left. So there's a lot of new that was thrown into this season.
Yeah, for sure. And you get Wednesday on her journey here, and I want to give like a little extra love to Gwendolyn Christie, who does kind of like come back here. Like, we're in full spoiler mode now, but Gwendolyn Christie does come back as, you know, her character from season 1, but now she is Wednesday's spirit guide. So she kind of shows up and she's kind of helping guide Wednesday along while also maintaining that animosity from the events that happened in season 1, and they have some fun playful back and forth on that plays out over it. But I thought she was really fantastic in the scenes that she was in, for sure. You get a very brief cameo from, you know, Lady Gaga in this as well. Everybody was wondering what her involvement was going to be, and you do see her in this back half,
and a new song,
and you get a brand new song that is actually played out in the typical episode 7. It seems like is going to be the dance scene episode, because I believe it was the same episode that had the iconic Wednesday dance in season 1. I can't remember if it was episode 7 or not, but it might have been episode 7. But it was episode 7 of this season where you get the dance sequence with Enid and Agnes that it played out really well. It was fun. I don't think it's going to be quite as iconic as the first season, but it was still a really cool scene set to a brand new Lady Gaga song that was pretty cool and a lot of fun too. But yeah, they definitely tried to, I feel, shoehorn in the romance part of it a little bit, just because it is kind of a teen-centric, and I get it. You kind of have to have that element because, you know, that's part of the school-age drama is, you know, relationships and, you know, how fleeting they all really are and at that age.
But all they have is Enid. Like, there's really no other relationships other than Enid.
Yeah, but it's like, but like I said, it was kind of just shoehorned in for kind of a little bit of extra sauce in a couple of the episodes. But yeah, man, I had a good time with this because you realize that people you are suspicious of, probably you're right being suspicious of them, but then you also have the tale of Slurp, who was, you know, Pugsley's zombie that gets kind of a full character arc in this throughout this entire season. You come to find out who that zombie actually was and how integral they are by the end of the season here with everything that's going on. And I'm kind of bouncing around a little bit, but like by the time we get to the end of the season, it leaves things in a place that's very intriguing for when Wednesday season 3 is going to be coming out and some of the stuff there, because you get this whole Wednesday uncovering a lot of family secrets in this season, where you're starting to learn a little bit about the back history of the Addams family itself and things that her parents were involved in, and, you know, just her quest to not only understand her family, but everything going on around them and why things could be happening to her based on things that her parents did. And it's a very interesting way of presenting all of it that I think Tim Burton and the crew on this show have done a really good job of in keeping it interesting in the second season. And I think they did really well with it.
Yeah, you get a lot more family aspect in here because not only Morticia and Gomez are part of it, you get a little bit of Lurch, you get a backstory to Thing, you get her grandma and her Aunt Ophelia get story points and stuff progressing with here, and we also get a cult kind of being wrapped around, and like that was kind of the weaker part of it all. I mean, and it ties into some of the main characters, but it's kind of a side story compared to everything else that's going on that's wrapping around Wednesday and her family and everything with Slurp and what happened in the past and the skull tree and everything else. Like all of that ended up being tied into like one little bow and wrapped up really well together. And then you had the cult kind of storyline in the background, which was fun, but it was also, which I liked a cameo that ended with that with Casper Van Dien that you got to see towards the end of that storyline, which was a lot of fun. And to see him show up in Wednesday, because I've been rereading the Starship Troopers book, and I still go back and revisit that movie all the time. I mean, he's done other stuff than that, but that's what everybody remembers him from. To see, I'm like, he's wearing a bad wig right now, but I know who that guy is. Yeah, I know that face. But yeah, I mean, I think the second half was much stronger than the first half, because the first half you're really trying to set up that she has her psychic powers, you're taking away, and you're setting up the mystery that there's other things going on. I also do feel like it was a little bit weaker that they did go back to Tyler and bring him back into it and bring, you got Christina Ricci showed back up for a little bit there. You did get, I mean, I get it. You're trying to tie season 1 into it, but it gets a little bit more like, oh, this person is actually this, and this is this, and you're trying to connect the world, but it took a little bit too much. I still don't really care for the look of the hide. Like, it's not exactly the design; it's just the CG on it just looks. it just
Not a
looks
strong
off when it's up there. So just having that being a big point of it. But I will have to say, I think it was episode 6 was probably my favorite, and that's the episode where we get a Freaky Friday event where Wednesday and Eden change bodies, and it starts you right off where, you know, Wednesday is dancing to some pop music, and you see her in the bright, colorful stuff and makeup and smiling and dancing. Like, it looked like Jenna had so much fun filming that scene. And we also got a I guess I won't call it a conclusion, but we get extra to a running joke that Wednesday is allergic to color. Well, we get to see that play out a little bit more here too. But that was just it was a really fun episode for that. But there was so much stuff revealed in that episode as well. Like, that was a big reveal episode as well.
Yeah, for sure. And it was right on time as far as when it was needed for just not only tie in the first half, but the setup where they were going in the last 2 episodes too. I agree. That was by far my favorite episode of the season 2. You get to see both, you know, the actress that plays Enid and Jenna Ortega kind of showing off a little bit of extra acting chops in there, because you get Enid as, you know, she's embodied by the spirit of Wednesday now. So she's this stoic, non-blinking, extra serious. And it's kind of fun to watch them like try to emulate each other. And I think both actresses did a phenomenal job in that. The whole Jenna bouncing around in a bright color sweater and acting basically like Enid. And you just know that was just over the top and fun, and you get to see kind of that playful side of Jenna Ortega that she doesn't really get to show in a lot of the roles that she plays. But
it's kind of crazy is that they didn't tell Emma Myers that they were doing a body swap in the episode. So she was like getting prepared to do the episode, and like the makeup people and other people talking. She's like, "What are we talking about?" And went to Jenna and was like, "What are we doing? What are we talking about? Oh, we swap bodies. Oh, I had no." So she had very little time to prepare to do it. And I think she did a fantastic job with that. But like, she came out and said, I had very little time because I didn't realize that is what was going on in that episode.
Like, we were going full bore into it, and she gave it her best effort too, because it was really well done. I had a lot of fun with that episode. But yeah, I mean, you get to the end of this season, you get the whole Hyde and, you know, the whole that family and everything that was going on with that, and you have a very definitive conclusion to that sets up where we're going for season 3 of Wednesday, which does appear to be more focused on more secrets from the Addams family, because you have Wednesday setting off with Uncle Fester, who shows up on his motorbike with the car that she jumps in, and she now has access to her aunt's journal that her mom gave to her, and just going off on this journey to uncover more of those Addams family secrets that I think is setting up for a very interesting season 3, especially when you know who she's going after in particular and what that particular character has felt about Wednesday herself too. So some interesting back and forth family dynamics in season 3 for sure that I'm very excited about, that, you know, in 2028 it's going to be great when we finally get it.
They said it might be 2027 when we get season 3, so we might have another item to add to 2027. But yeah, like it's been a lot of fun, and I really like some of the Easter eggs too. That's some throwbacks to not only the Addams family, because you had them verbally say Addams family values and stuff, which was the name of one of the films, and you also have like Pilgrim World, and you had a lot of references to things he did in the film. There's also a nice kind of throwback to Tim Burton, because there was a stop motion animation sequence in this season as well, which, you know, throws back to, you know, Frankenweenie and Nightmare Before Christmas and stuff he's done before with that. So that was kind of a nice little touch to throw that in for I believe it was the Reading of the Skull Tree story was when they did that. So that was a lot of fun to see them include that. Like, I've seen some other reviewers and things talk about how it feels like they lost the thread and lost the point of the Addams family, but I feel like this actually strengthened it from the first season, because you got so much more of Gomez and Morticia and the family dynamic that is broken, but they enjoy it, but it's also broken, but and going back and forth, because Catherine Zeta-Jones got a lot more times Morticia. You know, Gomez was kind of still more of a side character in it, but he got his moments. But I really liked what we got to see out of Catherine Zeta-Jones is, Morticia in this one, because we got the dynamic between her and Wednesday, and they're fighting, and her mother, and they're fighting, and other stuff like that, that I really felt like she finally came into her own as a character. Because in the first season, they just kind of felt like they were there, and now they're finally getting to play these very infamous characters.
Yeah, and you get added layers to these characters that make you more invested in them. That's what you want out of a show, and an opportunity to dive deeper that you don't always get in a film, but in the series now they've added these layers, and I'm excited for where they're going. Like, I really enjoyed this season. I think they definitely amped up some of the intensity a little bit in some of the scenes, some of the emotional weight too, and I'm really excited for where they go and where they take this, whole history and mystery of the family and how that plays into everything, because, it seems like once again, Nevermore is in danger of not existing anymore at this point, and we're seeing if they can break away from the school, where else in the world it takes them, and, what happens to all these characters we know once the school's not involved. There's also the plot line with Enid and what she's got going on, and, they're setting out to, quote unquote rescue her after the events of what happened in the last episode there. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see where it picks up in the tone of this next season going forward and what the theme of it's going to be.
Yeah, I can't stop still having my Hogwarts parallels, because I know Hogwarts is shut down. Nevermore is shut down. The kids are on their own outside of the school now. There's definitely a lot of parallels I can still, be had there. But yeah, it was a fun season overall. So Wednesday season 2 was an enjoyable, fun, darker, kind of a little bit more gore, more horror-like telling of Wednesday's story, but we got a lot of progression with the characters, with Wednesday having some changes, the Morticia having some changes. It does falter a few times, feeling a little bit more like Harry Potter than the Addams Family at times, but it balances that really well, especially in the second half, and there's a lot of fun to be had. I'm giving it a solid 8 overall. I think it did a really good job of bringing us deeper into the world, giving us more depth to Wednesday, having a little bit more fun with it. I kind of wish we had less of kind of the connection to the first season and bringing some characters back and having them be such a huge part of it, because I wanted a little bit more original stuff to it. But overall, it's still a solid 8.
Yeah, I'm going to give it an 8.5 just because I really enjoy the progression in the characters and, the extra layers that are giving to each of these, especially like Morticia, like you said, getting more involvement from her in this and just really diving into this mystery around the Addams family and their history and where we're going for potentially season 3. 8.5 is where I land on it because, like I said, I enjoy it just as much, if not more, than season 1, but you get that depth of character development that doesn't always happen in the second season of a show, where it usually gets fleshed out so much in the first season that the second season suffers because of it. And I like that they took it and ran with it in season 2, and I'm excited for that setting up for season 3. I like where all these characters are going in this journey. It's a lot of fun, and I'm along for the ride here for sure, but 8.5 is a really solid point for me. I'm excited for season 3 when it's coming, hopefully in 2027, but if it's like the last season, it may not be until 2028. We don't know how fast they're going to get back to it, but I'm excited for the future of it. This is a definite solid follow-up to season 1. If you're a fan of the show and you haven't seen season 2, go watch it now. It's so much fun. Like, I really enjoyed it. The new Lady Gaga song is awesome. The fun dance stuff is good. The Freaky Friday episode was fun. The Harry Potter parallels don't bother me that much, but it's definitely there and noticeable if you're thinking about it, but it's still a really good teenage family drama / horror / mystery / comedy. Like, they kind of touch on a lot of genres, and it's kind of a melting pot of different things that they do a great job of mixing all of those tones together into something that's very palatable and really easy to get through watching, because most of these episodes are about an hour, but I didn't really feel like I was taking that long to watch it. Like, it's a pretty breezy watch, and if you're into binge watching, they're all out now. Go check them out and have a good time and let us know what you think.
Yeah, most of it just relies on just how good Jenna Ortega is as Wednesday. She just fits that role so well. She can do the deadpan, just morbid, dark, no emotion look and acting so well, which also made that Freaky Friday type of episode so much more enjoyable, because you're seeing her smile and laugh and dance and have fun, and she just did such a good job of being able to split those personalities so well and do her own version of Enid, which was, she is very bubbly and very over the top, so she did that very well. But I'm waiting for season 3 for Isaac, who plays Pugsley, to come back and be like 2 foot taller and have a very long beard, and he's going to look like older than Gomez when he comes back or something, because he's just... out of all of the cast, I think he is the youngest, so he's the one who's still growing and still going. So that was just a huge difference between him in season 1 and season 2.
Yeah, it was definitely startling to see him in episode 1 when I'm like, good God, that's the same kid. Like, it was incredible to see the literal growth he had in that season.
Yes, we didn't really talk about about Pugsley too much in here, other than his stuff with Slurp, but we did get some growth for his character as well, because he feels like he's the outcast of the family, which they kind of enjoy that at ways, but he got that, well, his parents don't really care that much about him, cares about Wednesday more, and we actually got to see a little bit more of that depth in there, and also the darkness, because, he gets in trouble for hiding Slurp, and he has to, so which punishment do I get? Do I get the iron, I forget what he called it, but it's 2 very torture devices that really would kill somebody. Like, which one do I get? And he's so happy and smiling and everything about it. Like, Gomez is like, oh, we'll flip a coin for it. Like, okay. Like, he's so excited to get his punishment, which is classic Addams Family.
Yeah, very, very funny stuff that keeps a lot of the tone from past iterations of that, for sure. And just their open willingness to kind of sacrifice Pugsley for Wednesday is just, it's a funny dynamic for this. Obviously not in a practical real world setting, but kind of pokes fun at some of those dynamics. Like, there's always the favorite child that nobody willing to admit, but they're very open about the fact that it's Wednesday on the show. So they do have a lot of fun with that, for sure.
Yeah, but all 8 episodes of Wednesday season 2 are on Netflix right now. Go check it out. It was a ton of fun.
Yeah, loved it a lot. Definitely worth a watch, for sure. Now I want to move us into our second review of the week, which is from Peacock, the follow-up to The Office. It's The Paper Season 1. So to kind of give you an idea of what this show is about, it is the story of a fledgling newspaper in Toledo, Ohio, that the camera crew and the documentary crew from the original Office series have found this company as kind of their next project of, documenting this type of real life workplace environment, and come to find out that it's at this newspaper in Toledo, and you get a little bit of a backstory. But one of the favorite characters of The Office is in this show, and it's Oscar, obviously, who, as many of you know, is one of the more popular side characters in The Office. But come to find out, the way that is actually tied is you go back for a follow-up on Dunder Mifflin, and come to find out that Dunder Mifflin closed in, I want to say 2019 or so, based on the show. But the company that bought it is the company that owns the paper product that also owns the newspaper. So you have this office setup where it's half a newspaper and half of a toilet paper tissue sales company, and you get that tie-in with obviously Oscar being pretty much the only character to kind of accept the reassignment to Toledo to work in this office, and that's where the tie-in comes in. And there's some really fun stuff that happens with Oscar out the gate and his unwillingness to be a part of the documentary, even though they do the funny job of saying, like, there's no time limit on his release that he signed when he did the original Office, which I feel was a funny touch. But yeah, you have this newspaper who gets gets a new boss, basically. Your new Michael Scott is Ned Sampson, who's played by Donald Gleason, who, speaking of Harry Potter, played Bill Weasley in the Harry Potter films. So you have him as the lead boss character in Ned Sampson, who gets, he is very serious about the news. He wants the newspaper to do great, and you kind of just jump into it. And what are your initial thoughts after watching this, and a lot of the parallels between the original Office versus this version of it? What did you think? What was your initial takeaway from it?
I think we were both pretty apprehensive about it, first off, because, you're doing something as a follow-up to The Office. It's tied to it, but not tied to it, as you mentioned. And we're going to have plenty of spoilers with this too, just because there's so much to talk about with it, especially when it comes to spoiling stuff between The Office and the paper, because as you mentioned, they did that. We got to visit with Bob Vance, who kind of gave where Phyllis is. We do get a bit of, Stanley gets called in one episode, but you don't hear him. And you get quite a few ties, but it's really interesting that they did go to that point of, well, Dunder Mifflin is no more. They've been bought out. It's a laser tattoo and makeup place or something now, that you don't actually have the Dunder Mifflin office anymore. Like, Dunder Mifflin is gone. And so, yeah, that's kind of how they explain Oscar. It's kind of interesting that we don't have anybody else, but we know towards the end, like, Andy was off to his own thing. Jim and Pam had left. You had Stanley was had retired to Florida. Kevin had been fired. And so Dwight and Angela and a few of those are the only ones we don't really have, like, what exactly happened. I assume Dwight's off just running his beet farm and his aunt's farm and everything else. But I was actually pleasantly surprised by this because, at first, that first trailer didn't give a whole lot to, like, okay, this seems all right. And then we got the word that it wasn't doing a weekly drop anymore, that it was dropping all at once. I'm like, does that mean the quality is going to be worse or anything else? But I actually enjoy this quite a lot. Like, I went into it knowing that the first thing, The Office, wasn't great. It was okay. And more rewatches as you go back, and after watching the series, it gets better because you know the characters and you know what they become and everything else. But I also feel like this is a mix of Greg Daniels' other show with Parks and Rec. It definitely feels a lot like The Office and Parks and Rec kind of come together. And you can compare and have parallels with different characters of, like, Ned is in the Michael Scott role, but he's kind of more of our... I don't want to say he's Jim because Mayor is kind of our Jim and Pam. And so the kind of Ned and Mayor are both kind of that mix of Jim and Pam. And you've got Oscar Bean, you've got Barry, the only reporter. He's definitely our Stanley. You have Esmeralda, which I have to say that's the only character I haven't cared about too much. I feel like she's over the top because we're telling a story about a newspaper that's barely holding on in Toledo, Ohio, and you have this extremely over-the-top Italian woman just wreaking havoc. She is not a fan of Ned because he comes in and takes her job, and she believes she could have it back, so she's doing whatever she can to try to get Ned out of there. And there's some funny moments, but I think it's a very strong personality to get used to right out of the gate. And I will compare her more towards, like, Andy, because Andy was a very strong personality. And I do feel like the later seasons of The Office suffered a little bit because of Andy becoming a main character, because that type of personality is better in small doses, at least to me. And I think Esmeralda is going to be better in small doses. I want to see how they evolve and change her character going on, because season 2 has already been greenlit. So they are going to do a second season of it. But I do think there's some tweaks and stuff that need to be done to a few of the characters. And I think Esmeralda is probably the one that needs the biggest tweaking because she was a lot to deal with.
It's so funny you say that because I'm going to be honest. I'm going to say something that might be controversial. Esmeralda is my favorite character on this show because she's so over the top and is like just over the top, cartoonish villain, like almost Cruella de Vil-esque in ways of just trying to get Ned ousted in this. If you don't know, she is Sabrina Impacciator, who is very famous for being on The White Lotus. If you've seen that show, like that's where, if you've never seen her before in anything else, White Lotus is definitely where she's gotten the most prominence from. But I don't know why she just made me cackle in a lot of stuff because she's just so bad at being bad. Like it's funny in my opinion. Like she's very strong personality, over the top, very thick, very heavy accent, like bad but meant to be bad. And I think the comparisons to Andy are apt because as most people know, Andy became more popular on The Office because the actor who played him, Ed Helms, blew up in a big way with the popularity of The Hangover, and I think they wanted to make a bigger role for him just to kind of capitalize on the star power from that. I really think so. I think that's why Andy got more involved in The Office, but I do think there are some moments where she can really evolve because you have some of the episodes where her and Ned actually work together and get along and try to at least a little bit. And I think you'll start to see a little bit more of that. I don't know if she's going to involve that much, but I think you can make some tweaks to her for season 2 that I think would work really well. She was just fun, man. It was just so silly, the stuff that she was doing in every episode in this, that it was just, it worked for me, and I don't know why. Ned is definitely very much a, like you said, a mix of Michael Scott and kind of Jim a little bit, but he's the one who very obviously wants to be the most successful. He takes journalism very seriously. I like the kind of will they, won't they storyline between him and Mara that go through this entire season, where you can clearly tell there's chemistry there that, you know, takes a little bit of a nut to crack. I wanted to say that one of my other favorite characters on this is Detrick, and I don't know why, because he's kind of this, he tries to act like a player who doesn't know how to be a player.
He's kind of like Ryan.
He's very much like a Ryan type of character on this, but I don't know why it works for me. He's kind of unhealthily obsessed with Nicole, one of the other characters who Ramona Young did a wonderful job of too in this, and she's definitely very much that Mindy Kaling kind of character.
Kind
a little
of
bit.
Kelly almost meeting Angela
A
in
little
a way.
bit,
Yeah.
a little bit. So you see like some of the hybrid adaptations of these characters from previous characters, but the way Detrick is trying to win over Nicole in a lot of these, just it was very cleverly written in a lot of ways. Like the wooden duck that the wooden bird that he felt for whatever reason,
just gonna carve you a wooden bird.
work, and you just have these guys like. Even I'm like Barry was even like, you know, I'm an idiot, but I can still tell that's clearly not going to work for her. Like there's so many fun, and it definitely leans into a lot of that cringe comedy that The Office was known for. There is a heavy amount of that too, and that kind of so awkward it's funny kind of stuff, especially with a couple of the reporters. I'm forgetting the characters' names, where they go and they're trying to find stories, and you know they come up with the whole like two kids messing with them talking about dogging, and they try to do
that
it
was
with
Adam
those.
and Adola.
Yeah. And you play a little bit of those. Adam reminded me a lot of Andy Samberg's character in Brooklyn Nine-Nine in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of similarities between, and I know they're both like, you know, comedians and stuff like that. So
Adam's definitely your real kind of just dumb guy who knows nothing.
Knows nothing but is confident in his everyday life.
I would almost call him almost like a Gabe type of character.
A little bit, yeah. I would say that too. But I agree, man. I enjoy this show because you get them kind of learning how to be journalists, even though they are very clearly not journalists. And they're very open about the fact that really only one or two people in that office have any type of reporting or interest in it. And it's Ned and Mare for the most part, and them trying to, in some of the most hilariously awkward ways, try to get stories out of what's notoriously like a not super newsworthy town in trying to make it interesting. It's a fun dynamic that plays out over this season, and I had a lot of fun watching it. I really enjoyed it way more than I thought I would when we, like you said, because we were both super apprehensive about this show, and I wound up really enjoying this season. I want to go back and watch it again just to kind of, now that I've seen it, I kind of want to dive into it a little bit more, but I got a lot of enjoyment out of this too.
Yeah, Ned and May are probably my two favorite characters out here because they have such a great chemistry together outside of like, if you're talking about their characters' chemistry, but the actors have a great chemistry and work off of each other really well. And Mayor's already given the Jim stares a lot, so you know she's kind of our Jim in here, but she plays it really well, and she's really great in it. It's like she's probably my favorite out of all. But yeah, Ned, you're kind of, he's walking that line of being a little bit of a Michael Scott and being a little of a Jim, that he knows what he's doing, but he doesn't know what he's doing because he was kind of a Nepo baby. His dad, his family comes from some money, and they poke fun at that, which is some really fun dynamic between Mayor and Ned when they're kind of really ribbing him about his upbringings, because there's a line about like, what did you do with the sheep and all that? So your parents bought you a sheep, and like, what did you do with it? Oh, well, the cook did this instead, because he ribbed himself like, oh yeah, the cook handled, you know, cooking my meals and stuff like that. But there was such a great dynamic back and forth. I also like Ken. Ken is more of the absurd Michael Scott, personality. He is the other, because it is kind of a weird dynamic that you have everyone's basically local to the area. Then you have Ken and Esmeralda, who are your international flair with our British and our Italian people. But Ken definitely gives you that Michael Scott, I'm just an idiot, over the top, don't know what I'm doing type of guy who is working with Esmeralda to try to overthrow Ned, but he also gets to see parts of it like, oh, maybe I need to remove myself from her, and maybe I need to do this. And you also get him, he's in charge of, there's an incident that happens with the toilet paper side of it, which they share an office. Half of it's softies and half of it is the paper and stuff. There's no walls between them, so they can see each other. But there's an incident with the softie side that the newspaper ends up coming in and helping, but also throwing under the bus, which was a good storyline and a good thing there about the morals of reporting, even if it's your own company. But he sets up an ice cream truck and he's handing ice cream out to the kids, but it turns out that it's peppermint scented toilet paper and the kids are all eating it and stuff. Like, it's so dumb, but it's like, that's the Michael Scott dumb. That's something Michael Scott would have done.
You know who Ken is? Ken is Michael Scott meets Dwight.
Yeah.
That is exactly who Ken is. Mm-hmm. He's a British version of Michael Scott mixed with Dwight. Because you have the whole, like, he's kind of in charge, he's kind of not in charge, but he is in charge. He's kind of Ned's boss-ish. Like, his role in the company is very loosely talked about, but he's kind of like this guy who's above Ned, but under the owner of the company. He's kind of like that, I don't know, upper management, not upper management kind of character. It's weird. You
also get some of Ricky Gervais's British office as part of Ken's character.
Yeah, you definitely get a lot of Ricky Gervais in there too. I love the episode where Marv, the owner of the company, has to come down on the floor and spend an episode there.
The I Love You episode.
The I Love You episode was so funny just to see. One of my favorite lines is actually an Oscar line from it. It's where, Ned, for whatever reason, gets into this mental space where he's trying to please the boss by just putting up these absurd the absurd meeting where they're all like, I'm going to point at you and you're going to nod and you're going to stand up and we're going to high five. We're just going to it's walking out. Everybody claps walking out. We're just going to put on this great show for the boss. And
why don't we have an actual meeting? No, let's.
But they go through this whole absurd routine, and he goes, and it's very clear. It's very clear that Ned enters this headspace of dealing with some unresolved father issues potentially that they don't dive into too much, where he just wants to make this father figure boss Marv happy. And one of my favorite lines is just so simple and funny. It just tickled me, where Oscar is doing his confessional to the camera crew, where he was like, you could clearly tell Ned was going through something. He was trying to work through something, and he should, but not at work. But it was just, I don't know why it just tickled me, but it was just so apt and funny. It was you could clearly tell he was working through something, and he needs to, but probably not here. And it was just, I don't know why it just made me laugh, but it was so poignant and funny at the moment. But yeah, man, there was a lot of really smart writing in this, and I really have to applaud them. Like you said, we were worried when they dropped all 10 episodes and it wasn't a weekly thing, how committed they were to it. But like you said, season 2's been greenlit. I'm excited for what could potentially be set up in season 2, because now you have a little bit of spoilers here. The last episode is them winning awards in this Ohio Journalism Awards ceremony, and there's some funny hijinks that happen in Oscar's speech was really funny. Esmeralda just going over the top to try to take away anything that could positively, put Ned in a good light at the end. But you do have the kind of a kicking off of what could potentially be an actual relationship between Ned and Mare, where, they talk about the very real power dynamic problem for them, Ned being her boss and then potentially being romantically intertwined now, do they just say screw it and it puts them in a different spot? But that was definitely, it was definitely interesting to see where that could lead in season 2 and what direction they're going to take that in.
Yeah, because they also played up a lot with the documentary crew. As you mentioned, a few things with it that, since The Office ended and you got to see a little bit more behind the scenes. Of course, you had the Sound Man storyline with Pam, and you got to see a little bit. They're going much deeper everyone talks more about and is more aware about the camera there, and you have like microphones get thrown off at one point so they can have a secret conversation, and you just overhear two random guys who then stick their head in front of the camera like, hey, you shooting a movie? Oh, a drama, and like doing that kind of stuff, but also the replies to Oscars. You mentioned like I do not consent to this. You do not have the rights. So like, yeah, your one from 2005 is still active, and there was something, I think it was with Nicole. She said something, and they just pop up no on the screen, and they go back to it. Like they're definitely going heavy. Like we've compared it to The Office a lot. It is not The Office. It is a pseudo continuation of it because you have Oscar and we know what happened with Dunder Mifflin and where things are with that, but it is trying to be its own thing. I do feel like it is much more The Office meets Parks and Rec because you get some more of the personality to say more align with some of the Parks and Rec's characters than they do with The Office, but they're really trying to establish something new and different with this paper, but being very relatable to what they've done in the past with their very popular shows. I mean, Parks and Rec and The Office were both really fantastic, long-running shows. I didn't laugh as much as I thought I would, but I don't think I laughed that much in season 1 of The Office or season 1 of Parks and Rec as much. So that's where I'm really intrigued to see where this goes in season 2 and on, because season 2 is where both of those really took off. And I think with some, adjustments, a few of the characters, and we got to see, but I was surprised at just how, even though I wasn't laughing as much as I maybe thought I would, I was engrossed by the story. I was getting into trying to figure out these characters and what their world is and their personalities are, and seeing how Ned and Mayor and Nicole and all of those, they kind of really evolve and change, and you get Trav from the Softies, who's kind of that he's almost Packer in a way. He's just kind of that oddball personality out there who's kind of playing both sides. But I really was enamored by seeing what the story they had to tell of how this paper evolves and how they keep things going and how they're going to mix in like the softy stuff, because we got a couple episodes that was very heavily not just about the newspapers, about the other parts of the business, and we get a little bit of the warehouse and the dock and stuff as well, which we don't get to see very many employees. So far we haven't seen that. No Dunder Mifflin warehouse employees have gone over into that side and stuff, but I was just surprised just how much I was into the story more than caring about how much I was laughing. I was really trying to connect and go through this journey with the characters.
I really think if you watch this entire season, it's 10 episodes in total. I really feel by about episode 4 or 5 that it really hits its stride. And you can tell like they had gotten more comfortable with the characters and the world building and the situations where they wanted to go narrative wise. Because episode 1, the pilot episode, is very slapstick. We're trying to introduce these guys and kind of surface level figure out what we've got with these people. But by the end of the season, I think these are fully fleshed out, real characters that you kind of get a better grasp on, because you do get that exposition throughout the entire season. But I really feel like from about 4 to 5 on through the rest of the season, they really hit their stride with, quality storytelling. One of my favorite high points was the episode where they're trying to bring back the Shame on You segment, and they go to the mattress store, and it's kind of the back and forth with, the early stages of, Ned and Mare, are they, aren't they kind of thing. And it's, that dynamic of trying to bust this mattress company and them just, getting on the same page and have that gotcha moment where they're just kind of nerdily celebrating in the middle of the store kind of thing. But it's really fun to see how they all evolve from the beginning of the season to the end. That I really do think season 2 has an opportunity to really jump up in quality level now that they've kind of fleshed out these characters on it. You could tell some of them may need a little bit of a tweaking and some of them may need a little bit more time. I was hoping we would have gotten more Travis time, honestly, because I think Travis could be a fun character that you can kind of dive into a little bit more, because you really just got the whole him going to the fishing place and like he's just kind of this emotionally unstable guy kind of, but you could tell he's kind of like a central character in a lot of stuff that you can kind of dive into him a little bit more, but I'm excited to see.
You can see Nicole as well towards the end. She's going to get something different towards maybe season 2 because of how season 1 ended with her. Yeah. Because she's kind of a cold character, but you see her warming up just a little bit towards the end.
I think you could do some fun things with her as well, but I'm excited for season 2, man. I'm excited to see where they can take this story, move it forward, and kind of really amp up the quality, lean into that comedy, because it is funny. There's definitely funny moments in there. You got to get to it, though, and I think this works if you have a particular sense of humor. Like, I think if you like The Office, you'll like this.
If you like The Office, Parks and Rec, anything that Greg Daniels and company have done, you're going to enjoy this.
I think you'll get a lot of enjoyment out of this, too, because they do a good job of kind of balancing between the cringy comedy and, like, the good quality storytelling that you got from The Office and Parks and Rec. I think they have a good mix there, and I think there's some real potential for season 2 to take off.
I want to go back through, as you said, you want to do a rewatch. I want to do a rewatch and look for all the Easter eggs and stuff, too, because there are several Easter eggs, one with a doll that Michael had given Oscar at some point. There's some references, like to some old bosses. I believe I saw the Froggy sticker somewhere in there at one point as well. So there's plenty of little bitty Easter eggs from The Office that are out there. But I'm curious if maybe there's some stuff from Parks and Rec and stuff too. I mean, they're not far from Pawnee, Indiana and Toledo, Ohio to have some references and stuff there. So it'd be interesting if we do. I would love to see a tie into Parks and Rec as well. We were never fully in the same universe because you did have, Anne also was in The Office as, Jim's girlfriend for a little bit there. So they're not in the same universe, but it would be fun to see some Easter eggs between those two shows and bring something back, even if it's just some bits and pieces. You don't have to have characters, but give us like a reference to Pawnee, Indiana or something like that, just to kind of just have some fun with that as well. Because I do feel it's a big mix of The Office and Parks and Rec, which I love both of them. So I was happy to see, but yeah, there's definitely some tweaking to do for season 2, but it was a better start than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, for sure. Give me a Nick Offerman cameo in there at some point. He doesn't have to be Ron Swanson. He doesn't have to not be Ron Swanson. But like you said, have maybe one or two of these people that were in Parks and Rec just to kind of make an appearance and show up. If it could be the actors even that are in different roles, just to kind of a wink and a nod to the audience that are fans of those shows to kind of make an appearance for sure. But
I don't know why this just popped in my head, and sorry to cut you off again. Detrick's bird, going back to The Office, didn't Stanley, when he retired, he was just carving birds on his front porch.
Yes.
So I wonder if that's it
was definitely
an Easter egg.
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't catch it then, but right now my head was like, okay, that's an Easter egg to Stanley.
That's why I made me
because I was thinking of Nick Offerman, if you know anything about him personal life, because it was even joked about in Parks and Rec, is that he's big into woodworking and everything else. So I was starting to think about an Easter egg with woodworking and stuff with his character as well. But I'm like, wait, that's probably a reference to Stanley.
Could you imagine them finding Stanley retired carving wood and Nick Offerman's with him? Like that would just be perfect. It would just be a perfect. There's the possibilities. Give us a writing credit, please, if that shows up in season 2. But yeah, the paper season 1 is just it's a fun journey to go on if you're a fan of, The Office and Parks and Rec. I think you're really going to like this show. It's smartly written. It takes a little bit of time to get going, but I think when they really get going, like I said, by episodes 4 and 5, they really find their voice, and it really starts to take off in this. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 for this first season. Like, I think you get a lot of charm, a lot of heart to these characters where they're really starting to buy into themselves as journalists and kind of finding their footing a little bit. And it comes at the expense of some very cringeworthy kind of comedic moments at times, but you really start to root for these people to be successful and have this paper just kind of pull itself up by the bootstraps. But I'm giving it an 8. I think it's smartly written, especially the back half is really high quality of this show, in my opinion. Really excited for what it sets up for season 2, but yeah, I'm giving it an 8, and I'm really excited for them to kind of jump off and see what's next.
I enjoyed it quite a bit. I'm going to give it a 7.5 just because I feel like there does need to be some tweaks, some characters. I wasn't as big and high on Esmeralda as you were. She kind of dragged stuff down for me more than she brought it up, just because it was almost too over the top for me. Like, you can have over the top. The Office and Parks and Rec both had over the top stuff, but I think her character was just a little too much for me. It was overwhelming. So if they do some tweaks with that can easily be a much better show. And I didn't laugh as much as I thought I would, but it is a fun combination of The Office and Parks and Rec. That the Ned and Mayor characters, I really felt the relationship, working relationship, and everything else that's building. And Nicole, I enjoyed. There's some characters really enjoyed, and I just feel like there's a few things that need to tweak that could really make this a solid series going forward. So I'm giving it a 7.5 just because it just needs a little bit more tweaking to get to that point. But like, as I mentioned early on, The Office needed some tweaking after season 1. Parks and Rec needed some tweaking after season 1. Yeah. They both didn't come out of the gate strong. And I think if you give this a chance, and as we head into another season, that it's got potential to be something as special as The Office was.
Yeah, I get it. And Esmeralda is definitely going to be a very polarizing character. She is a lot. I'm not going to deny that. She is a lot. I do want to give her some flowers a little bit because I don't know why. The episode where they were auditioning kids for the commercial, she was so funny as this overly dramatic, over the top, like stage mom with her kid who very clearly sucked as an actor. Like he was just terrible, and she's trying to coach him up and just be that stage mom of like, no, my kid's the best. Like you have to. Like, it was just so funny.
See, my favorite part of that was Oscar and the kid because Oscar's like, he made it up, and he's like, this is how you handle an overbearing, over the top mom. And he's like, okay, thanks. I'll remember that. And then they do a talking head of him. And he's like, I'm not listening to that guy. He doesn't buy my Wendy's or something like that. Like that was a very funny line from the kid that he delivered there.
Yeah, it was good. But I mean, the whole point was he was just this terrible, like emotionless, didn't have any emotion. I mean, he's a kid for the love of God. But auditioning for the commercial, you very clearly see that he was less skilled than the other kids that were at least getting the opportunity to interview. And you just have her just over the top of her trying to act badly, and it's just, it works for me. I don't know why. I get why you say, because she is a lot. She has a very grating personality, but she plays into that so well, and she leans into it, and you could tell she has a lot of fun doing it, like on the show, and it works for me. I don't know why. I was just like, I could tell within like the first 10 minutes of the show, I was like, I'm going to like her. I'm going to hate her, but I hate her. I love her because I hate her kind of thing. And it just, I don't know why. It works for me, and I hope they do kind of tweak her a little bit and give her a little bit of depth, because she does have some moments in that season where, especially like the catfishing episode was
with Jarson,
was with Darson, which was so funny.
Jarson, it's Jason and Jared put together. Jarson,
it's
very
Jarson.
Common name.
So funny, so funny.
And the cameo with that episode.
The cameo was this fantastic chef's kiss. But like she has some moments, and then like the episode with her and Ned trying to team up to take out this the kid blogger was really funny too. And like it's just, there were moments where she, I think, really shined in this and made some potential not as good episodes really funny just with her involvement in it. So I'll give her some love for that. And I get it. She's going to be a very polarizing character. Some people are going to be like, absolutely not. The personality is an instant no for me, but it works. I think it adds a fun dynamic to a show that might not be as interesting otherwise.
I think you can keep her being an eccentric character, but just tone it down a little bit, just to give her some more layers and depth, other than being this just insanely over-the-top character. Because you felt like that was happening, because you got a kind of a touching moment between her and Ned.
Sure, yeah.
And then the next few episodes, she's back to just being
right back at him.
In your face, over-the-top craziness stuff with it. Because you kind of saw that, no, we're just going to go back to it. It's like, I just want to see a few tweaks with her. I like the actress, and I think it could be a fun character. It's just a lot. For me,
it's a lot. I get it. Yeah, I get it. She's a lot to deal with, but like I said, I'm into it. I enjoy it, and I'm excited for this. All of the episodes of The Paper season 1 are out on Peacock right now. Go check it out. If you've watched either one of these shows that we've reviewed this week, come to our Discord, come to our YouTube comments, talk about these shows with us. We had a lot of fun talking about them today, but yeah, these were two that I got to admit, I'm glad we did both of these, and they were both really enjoyable watches, and I'm glad we got to kind of talk through our thoughts on them.
Yeah, I'm glad The Paper turned out better than I thought, because I do love The Office so much, and I've probably rewatched The Office 6 or 7, 10, 15 times. I mean, MTV and Comedy Central all through the week. It's all throughout there. I think even E airs The Office episodes as well, and I've watched them on Peacock, and I've gone through and we're there. Like it's one of my favorite all times, and it has its problems, and it has its bad episodes, and it had characters that needed tweaked. And what gives me hope with the paper was just because The Office did start off a little okay, because like that pilot for The Office, like it was just a direct copy of the British pilot, and they were just going kind of over the top, slapsticky with it. And, you know, there was a couple good episodes in that first season, but it was like season 2 was really the launching point for that series. So I'm really looking forward to see if season 2 of the paper, they're able to get that magic as The Office did and really take off.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of potential, I think, in this show that season 2 is going to be very telling about the staying power of it. I'm interested to see what the viewership of it's going to be, because you know you're going to have a ton of people that watch The Office at least give it a chance. I'm sure that pilot episode is going to score very high, but I really hope people give it a chance beyond that first episode and not tune out of it and give the whole season a chance, because I really do think, like I said, from episodes 4 and 5 on, which I hate to say that about a show, you really want it to grip you in episode 1, but I really think it really finds its voice by about episode 4, and it really takes off from there, and I hope people give it a chance.
And the last episode 10, was fun, because it takes place all at the awards there, and we get some shout out to Cincinnati a few times in there, especially when he's on a Zoom call where he's wearing that blue mask and stuff, and he's got a guy, Dan from Cincinnati, in there. It'd be fun to see like the Enquirer or some other local newspapers kind of get some shout outs and get some involves, or get like maybe they have to come down to Cincinnati and we get to see the skyline, get to see them doing something in Cincinnati with that paper. Maybe, you know, there's a war between the two papers and they're go do something. Like there could be a lot of fun that gets our area involved in it. And that's all we have for you this week. Coming up next, we will be talking about the latest Stephen King adaptation, The Long Walk. Really looking forward to that. Really excited to see if they were able to maintain that dark and grittiness that we've seen from the trailer and know from the book. But we're also going to be jumping back into the world of Alien Earth with episodes 4 through 6. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.
To find all of the episodes of We'll Bring the Popcorn, go to our YouTube page, hit the like and subscription button so you're getting our episodes when they drop each and every Monday. If you're listening to us in the audio room on any of the podcasting platforms that we're on, please don't forget to give us a 5-star review. It really helps elevate the profile of the show. And don't forget to go to willbringthepopcorn.com, where it has all of our archive videos, all of our social media information, as well as our merch store, so you continue to support the show in that way. We cannot thank you enough for your continued support.